This video will talk through authorship, which is perhaps the most important skill we as historians use on a daily basis. In this, you need to use the creator of a source to work out if the information in the source is useful, reliable. There's all sorts of ways you can employ this skill. And we do this by looking at four things. So what information have you been given? How qualified is the author to tell you about the subject? Is the examiner trying to trick you? So they may try and put in some bits to the authorship section in a question to trick you out. And do you trust that they are telling you the truth? And why? You can never just say, this author is reliable. You need to qualify that with some evidence. Now, in order to do this in history, we have a very easy format that we look at. Who wrote it? Why did they write it? Does it match what you already know? And does it make sense that they said this? Now, these 4 points are going to be what you are asked to do every single time you look at authorship, so you might want to make a note of them. So we'll have a go at analysing authorship, but I've done it with a utility focus, or a usefulness focus, purely because otherwise it doesn't really make any sense. So we've got interpretation 1. It is simply not possible to recover from this mess the Allies have put us in. Our finances are in ruin. We cannot pay, so the French simply come and steal. But we must be realistic. We cannot ignore the sanctions put upon us, nor can we afford them. And that's by Friedrich Ebert, who is the leader of the Weimar Republic, in a speech to his party on the 12th of January 1923. So I'm going to apply those 4 points now. So who wrote it is Ebert, leader of the Weimar Republic. Why did they write it? So he's giving a speech to his own party. Now that tells me, because they're his party, he's unlikely to have to persuade them, so it's more likely to be to inform. However, it is a public speech, hence why we've got a record of it, so that might be something I would think about. Does it match what you already know? So you can have the most unreliable author anywhere, but if their information is correct, then they're still a reliable source because they're still telling you accurate information. So from my own knowledge, I'm going to work out that this is about the Treaty of Versailles, because I know the Weimar Republic comes after World War I, and when they're talking about finances being in ruin, I know that's probably referring to the £6,600 million they have to pay in reparations. Therefore, does it make sense that they say what they do? Well, yeah, to me, it completely makes sense that the leader of the German government kind of has a go at the Treaty of Versailles, but also acknowledges there's not a lot they can do about it. You can't, as leader of a party, sit there and say, oh yeah, I'm well up for paying all this money. It wouldn't make sense. But as a leader, he does have to acknowledge the legalities. So this is what I came up with, and I've colour-coded to kind of point out what I'm talking about and when. This source is written by Ebert, who is the leader of the Weimar Republic, and he is giving a speech to his party. This author is useful to a historian because he is in a position of authority, so is well placed to discuss important issues such as the Treaty of Versailles. He is also talking to his own party, so is likely to be setting out policy rather than just opinion. Some historians may say that as it is a public speech, it will not go into a lot of detail so as to get their point across quickly. From my own knowledge, the Treaty of Versailles did put the finances of Germany in ruin by forcing them to pay £6.6 billion in reparations. Overall, though, this source is very useful as it does make sense that Ebert is saying this and the content of his speech is accurate. Let's have a go at one on your own then. The Germans have caused a great deal of destruction to the European continent and should not be able to do so again in the future. In ancient times, defeated civilizations were utterly destroyed through famine, disease, and the blade. We are only imposing rules which will eliminate any further attempts to wage war. And that's spoken by David Lloyd George, British Prime Minister, in his diary in 1919. So pause the video and have a go at analysing the authorship. So to give you another example, I've put one at the bottom here. So this source is written by Lloyd George, who was the British Prime Minister during World War One. This was written in his private diary, so we can suggest the purpose of it was to vent his private feelings. Although the fact that it has been published, and Lloyd George was obviously a very public figure, it was likely he would have known his diaries would be published, so they may be censored. From my own knowledge, I know the Treaty of Versailles did restrict Germany's ability to wage war as it set reparations at 6.6 billion, took away a lot of land, and restricted their number of soldiers to 100,000. As one of the main leaders who imposed the Treaty of Versailles on Germany, it makes sense that Lloyd George would be saying this as he would want to justify his actions in the future.